everybody, and welcome to What's Up, Cuz? I'm your host, Jason Palmer, along with my cousin, the coach, Lance C. Irvin, as we talk about everything going on in the sporting world in Chicago. We got a lot to talk about here today on this Monday fall here in Chicago. What's up, cuz? How you doing, man?
What's up, cuz? I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Shout out to my Go Get It shirt because Anthony Davis' father told him yesterday when they were talking to Mr. Davis. He was like, man, my father just kept telling me to go get it. So you know what that means. Go get that chip, son, so we can count that dough. Let's count it. And you don't have on nothing pertaining to basketball, I see?
I do not. I'm actually wearing a Yokoshumi Giants jersey that I got when I went to the baseball game in Tokyo last year. So I decided to go Japanese baseball for some reason tonight, and it has nothing to do with anything we're talking about.
So you clowning today, huh? You had to throw that out there. I went to Japan and they had names for people like you. You know, I'm fired up today. You a show off.
I'm a
show off. I went over to Japan and I got, you know what? That's all right. That's all right.
I did. And got to fly in business class because the people upgraded me.
Oh, you were really big baller, huh?
Yeah, I was happy, man.
So you were eating steaks in first class and shrimp?
Yeah, I was. I had like a shrimp. I had shrimp and a steak on the ride over there. It was a 13-hour flight, for Christ's sake. So, yeah, I was eating good and drinking good.
You know what? Ain't nothing wrong with that. Oh, but so before we get into it, Jay, let me wish my beautiful wife, Paula, a happy birthday. She's about 30. She's 30. Well, she looks like she's about 30, but happy birthday. I love you, Paula. And thanks for having me run all around the city, getting you cupcakes. I'm going to Chicago, chicken and waffles and all this. She had me running all over the place. I told the team, when you get married and when you're a father, don't nobody thank you really. You just go do what everybody else wants you to do. So, and I hope she's listening too. I dare her to jump on too. Like I'm going to get mine in about an hour too.
Well, happy birthday to my cousin Paula. I wished her a happy birthday on Facebook. So I want to say it to her here on the show. And congratulations, she does still look 30. And I hope she enjoyed her Indigenous Day holiday and she didn't have to teach today. And yes, we are taking over this holiday. It is now Happy Indigenous Day. And I don't care what the Italian American community got to say about it. Y'all got to pick somebody else to represent y'all. That'd be like black folk having a holiday and we got our represent us. So y'all, it's been a whole bunch of Italian Americans. Y'all need to pick somebody else. We ain't representing him no more with no damn holiday. So happy Indigenous Day to all the people out there from Native American tribes, and we appreciate everything you've done, Native American culture. I'm actually starting to get a little bit more into that, trying to learn a little bit on my own because I just think, we're not going to be taught in school, so some stuff you got to learn on your own.
Exactly, Jay, and I second that. Like sometimes you have to find out information on your own. Don't always believe what people tell you. Open up a book, read, ask questions, and learn. Like that's a wonderful point.
Yeah. So for those of you joining us for the first time, well, welcome to What's Up, Cuz. And you are watching our show. If you're watching us on Facebook Live, if you're watching us on YouTube Live, we appreciate that. If you're watching us on our app, which is the main place we want you to watch, that's SportsZone Chicago app, we appreciate that too. You can download that on Amazon, on Google, or on iTunes. So go ahead and download the app. It'll give you access to all the shows we have here on the network. And we got so many good shows and we're always adding content. So go ahead and download that app, SportsZone Chicago. But we do appreciate you for tuning in. And, let's get to some of the topics of the day. I mean, it's so many, and we got some great guests coming up. Matter of fact, let me mention who we got coming up. At 6:30, we got Clyde Travis. My guy, Clyde Travis, he's a former reporter at the Chicago Sun-Times. He has his own show on WVON 1690 AM here in Chicago. Clyde is going to come on. He's going to talk to us about a lot of what's going on in Chicago sports and what he's been up to since he's left the Sun-Times. So looking forward to talking to my fellow journalist and brother, Clyde Travis. And at 7 o'clock, we're going to talk with Marcus Liberty from the Fight the Lion and a former NBA player himself. He's going to talk with us about NBA Finals. We're going to talk a half hour just on NBA Finals, LeBron, AD, Jimmy Butler, everything that the NBA did, just pulling that magnificent endeavor off down there in Florida and bringing us some basketball. So he's coming up. And at 7:30, we got a special guest who we're not going to even announce who she is. She's just going to come. All right? She's just going to come on at 7:30, and we'll talk then. And we got a lot of stuff to talk about. But you want to get to some of these topics to talk about?
You know we do. What we got? Let's get started, cuz.
Well, we'll bring in our guy from the Chicago Crusader. He's the sports editor there. Joseph Phillips, he's going to jump on. What's up, Joe?
What's up, cuz?
How you doing? What's up, cuz?
What's up, cuz? I'm doing good. How are you, Joseph?
I'm doing great. Enjoying this beautiful fall day.
Yeah. Well, Joseph, we got a lot to talk about here. There's a lot of news going on today. Let's just start with the big news of the day. The Chicago White Sox have parted ways with manager Ricky Renteria and pitching coach Don Cooper. That's the big news of the day. I've been calling for it for weeks, but it's finally happened. Ricky Renteria is now out. Joseph, what are your initial thoughts?
Well, you guys have been calling for these guys like the hunchback from Notre Dame. You know, like y'all been outside with the with the torches and everything. And I guess the general manager and the owner actually heard you. So your wish is your command. And now, on for a new manager search. Who would you like to replace Double R, aka Ricky Renteria?
Well, I'm gonna get into that later, but I'm just glad he's gone. Lance, what were your thoughts when you heard the news?
What did you say? He's gone.
You know what? I immediately thought about you because you have been calling for his head for the last month or two. But it was a couple of things he did in the playoffs. I think it was Dane Dunny when he pulled him after like 15 pitches. Matter of fact, let me say 10 pitches. Some stuff like that, you can't do that. Then he made a couple of questionable decisions down the stretch that probably like sealed his fate. And then, they could always point to his record. I think it was like had like a 400 winning percentage. I don't know. But at the end of the day, my thing was, who do they want next? Because they have a good group of young players coming back. And I was just like, they didn't think he could get the young group to turn the corner. So with that being said, I think they pulled the string at the right time because I don't think they had confidence in him.
I agree. I think he was like the Doug Collins of baseball, and that he'll get you to the playoffs, but after that, you need somebody else. So I was extremely happy with the decision, Joseph. And, we'll see what they do going forward. I did watch Rick Hahn's press conference today, the whole press conference, and he gave us a lot of information. Garrett Crochet, their top draft pick, turns out will not need Tommy John surgery, which was great news. Just had a strain. And then we also hear that Don Cooper is gone, Joseph.
Yeah, old Donnie boy. New York's finest. I guess they got rid of him really quick because they said that when it came down to Ozzie Guillen, he was the guy responsible for helping getting Ozzie out of the building. So when it came to that locker room, and I guess now the tables are turning, and Don has pretty much been cruising the ship for years without any accountability. And I guess this year, because the spotlight was put on the White Sox, and especially the way they lost, going up 1-0 and then losing the last two games of the series, it put a lot more emphasis and a more urgency to win for this team.
Lance, you was a former pitcher back in the day. How much influence does a pitching coach actually have?
You know what? A little bit, Jay. Like, you're supposed to help with technique and give us some nuggets on what you think we can do. But my thing was this. Was the staff good enough? Did he have a tight pitching staff that would have made him be successful? I mean, I don't know. What's your thoughts on that? Was the staff good enough? It's hard for me to say.
Do I think the staff was good enough for them to win a World Series? Absolutely not. Do I think the staff was good enough for them to beat the sorry-ass Oakland A's? Yes.
But Jay, they made it to the playoffs this year for the first time in
about
12 years.
And then they lost to a team that hit during the season 241. The Oakland A's hit 241.
True, that wasn't a strong point, but the A's had some pretty good pitchers. So you think Cooper should have been gone?
Well, here's the deal. We always talked about this early in the season. We said that the Sox needed to add a third starter. And that third starter right there pretty much cost Rick Renteria his job. It was like the cherry on top because it exposed him for who he really was. It forced him to actually coach the team. And as I always said, Rick Renteria is not an X's and O's guy. He's more of guy that can manage personalities, stroke egos, etc. But when you're trying to win, you got to be able to stand up against the ego.
Time out, you two. Time out. They needed a third pitcher. What happened to one of their better pitchers? Enlighten me on what happened to one of their better pitchers before the season started.
Which one are you talking about? Kopech?
Yes.
Kopech opted out.
So would he have helped you two baseball knowledges? Come on, talk to me.
Of course he would have.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Most definitely. Actually.
So he would have.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Kopech, so he would have helped him. So this conversation would have been a different conversation if he would have went in with both guns blazing. That was their third starter. I could be wrong.
Well, you are wrong. You are wrong, cuz. Because here's the problem.
Come on, break it down. Break it down, you White Sox fan.
Here's the problem. Ray Lopez was on that roster, Lance. Ray Lopez was on that roster. He was supposed to be the third starter all year. What did he do all year? Nothing. He gave us nothing. So he was so bad, he didn't even make the playoff roster. That's an indictment on your pitching coach, Lance. This dude's supposed to be your number 3. You also had Dylan Cease, who was supposed to be your number 5 going into the season.
I like Dylan, though.
And then you didn't even start him in game 3 of the playoffs. You went with some dude you just brought in 2 weeks ago.
Right. That was insulting.
That's why you're not sitting there. That's why it's somebody else in your seat. Some stuff, y'all, as coaches, we just have to do. And, I never call for coaches to get fired because I'm sitting in that chair, too. But with that being said, there's certain things you just have to do. And decisions like that, that's when the other coaches got to come in. Are you sure? Like Rodell Davis, I can hear my father, bless his soul. Lance, what the hell are you doing? What is that? He got himself. But I just want to argue about our third pitching. Go ahead, Joseph. I'll leave y'all alone. See, y'all had me fired up today.
It's okay because when it came to Ray Lopez, he earned a nickname throughout the season. They call him Ray Boom Boom Room. The ball was going out the park every time he threw it down the middle.
I agree. We're going to talk more about the White Sox later on. Let's also talk about, we'll just kind of stay on this topic. Billy Donovan today, Joseph, called all assistant coaches on the Bulls and said, I will not be requiring your services.
Whoa.
And he has removed all the assistant coaches from the Bulls, which is a sign that he's going to come in and bring in his people. And I don't have much of a problem with it. He's got to do what he's got to do to be successful. But that was the other breaking news of the day, which kind of got overshadowed by the White Sox. But I still think that's big news, Joseph.
Oh, yeah, that is big news. He just pulled off a Gordon Gekko. Wall Street, he bankrupted the whole bench. He just got rid of all the 401k plans that was on that team.
But y'all know I have something to say about that since I'm fired up today. My man Chris Fleming just got there. He barely had a cup of coffee. Whoa. He was there for about 5-6 months. He did a great job in Brooklyn. Not Chris Fleming is not there. So, I don't know. They said they might keep him. Let me go back. Roy Rogers. Love Roy Rogers. Roy been there maybe a year and a half, maybe. Now Roy is gone. I'm not saying he shouldn't have did it, but this coaching is a tough life, you guys. Barely a year, a cup of coffee, and you gone. Yeah. Come on, y'all.
Well, and Lance, and I appreciate your perspective on that because that is true. And I know just from your career, how many colleges you were at. It was almost like I get a phone number for you, and you'd be like, "Oh man, that's an old number. I'm gone." I was like, "Wait, where you go?" I was like,
just sitting there like, I just got here.
But wait, Joseph, I call him like, "Hey man, I'm gonna come down to Iowa next week. Come visit you." He's like, "Yeah, we're not there no more." So I respect that. It is a tough business, man. You can be there a few months, so don't buy no house.
No, right. and the funny part about it, I just was texting with Chris Fleming last week. I was supposed to meet with Roy Rogers on the Zoom last week. Hopefully they'll find a job. But I understand what Billy doing. When you give him the keys to the car, he has to be able to bring in who he feels comfortable with. Hopefully he'll bring my man Mo Cheeks with him. I love Mo Cheeks. I'm a big fan of his. But this is crazy business. Crazy business, y'all.
Yeah. And in addition to that, the Bulls are trying to develop a player development department. And one of the guys I noticed on there who I covered during his high school career was Max Rothschild. I was like, wow, I was really just shocked about that, but I didn't know he was working with the Philadelphia 76ers, very close to Mark Eversley. And this kid, a U High grad, he's bringing his knowledge and his his thoughts to the game, and his pops is pretty well known, and hey, that's a big move. He's a Chicago guy, and I think the Bulls are very serious about player development. And like you said, Billy Donovan bringing Mo Cheeks in, Chicago's very own. Hopefully, if Mo decides to come, but I like the way the Bulls are going. I hope that they can build in the right direction.
Yeah, I do too, man. I do too. I think we all are really looking forward to the Bulls. Just getting back to the playoffs. I think we got a taste of after the Jordan era when Derrick Rose and them, and unfortunately the young man got injured and that dashed pretty much everything. And it's been some years of just really poor basketball over there. And Chicago deserves better than that. We are a basketball town. And we need our flagship basketball team to represent us well. And, I'm wishing the best for everyone in that organization as they try to move forward as well. Going over to our next topic here, let's come out of basketball. Let's go to hockey real quick. Man, Corey Crawford will not be back. Corey was not offered a contract by the Blackhawks, or technically he was offered one, but he took a better offer. That my favorite picture of Crow right there. That was at I believe the 2015 championship rally where he said they worked their you-know-what's off to get that win. Crawford not coming back. And then Brandon Saad, the two-way power forward, traded to Colorado for a couple of defensemen. Perhaps more of a money move, but also didn't think Saad was as effective the second go-round. I think actually it kind of broke his heart when they traded him the first time away. And it definitely broke you could just tell he wasn't playing the same as he did his first go round. I think his production definitely dropped.
So you think that? So you think if he would have stayed, his productivity would have been the same, or you think?
I think players react differently to trades in all sports. And when he got traded the first time, nobody saw it coming. And you traded him for Panarin, and it actually ended up being a pretty good trade. But then you let Panarin go, and we're like, well, wait a minute, you just wasted a trade then if you wasn't gonna keep this guy. So I definitely think that hurt him. As far as Corey Crawford, Joseph, I am a Corey Crawford fan. Don't get me wrong. I don't want Corey to play anymore, and I said that even before this past season because the concussions. He gets one little ding, and then he's out for 30 games, and I'm concerned about the young man's health going forward. So.
But let me ask you this. I think Corey had a great postseason. Yeah. You don't think he has one more year in him? Like, I think the key is we have to know when to sit down too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think he's got one more hit left in him. It ain't about a season. He got one more hit. He get hit one more time the wrong way. He ain't gonna get up.
Right. I totally agree. Like, the Crow redeemed himself this year. Actually, he was my top performer out of the Blackhawks as far as when it comes to, when it comes to the goalie play. I know the rookie, is it Kubiak?
Kubiak, yeah.
Kubiak, yeah, he played very well also. But I had a feeling Crow was going to get his money. He's gonna hit the unrestricted free agent market and test his game because he had such a great performance during the playoffs. And then one question I wanted to ask you, Jason. Who is holding Stan Bowman accountable? I never see anybody hold him accountable. It seems like it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on, but it looks like I always see his face. He looks like he's actually running the Blackhawks, like he's the owner of the team.
Come on, hockey guy. Let me hear this.
Well, I mean, talking to a lot of the reporters who cover the Blackhawks, I do not, but just talking to a lot of them who I really trust, there's definitely was some struggle in the hierarchy in the Blackhawks organization. And I think we saw that when McDonough was fired, this spring. And McDonough would be the person that held Bowman accountable. So if you fire McDonough, but you keep Bowman, that may be telling us something. I think Stan has made some very questionable moves No, he's made some bad moves. Well, I'm not being smart. He's made some bad moves.
Sounding like it is.
Right, he's made some bad moves, and he's made some good moves. But the problem is those bad moves have had some serious long-term effects that are really hurting that franchise. And he just hasn't made enough good moves to counter those bad moves. And, I think this is his last dance right here.
I was about to say, call for him like you call for everybody else.
Yeah.
What, you giving him one more year? Because you know how you hold coaches and general managers and stuff now.
Well, he's not his dad either, Scotty Bowman. I thought when Scotty left, all of that influence and that mystique left and went out the door with him. And I think Stan was working off the leftovers on what his dad pretty much established. Because I told Sean on the Sean and Mine in the morning show, I said that if it wasn't for Scotty Bowman and Dale Talon, I said the Blackhawks wouldn't have been in the position that they were to win 3 Stanley Cup championships over those past 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Would I have cut Stan at the same time cut McDonough? Yeah, I probably would have. I think Stan has had a long enough tenure. But that said, I also don't think he's the worst general manager in the league. The guy knows some things. He keeps the team together. I just think his biggest – let me say it like this. His biggest mistake is what has handicapped them the last 3 or 4 years, and that is giving long-term contracts with no trade clauses to people who have kind of aged out, and they're icons. I mean, Brent Seabrook is an icon. Duncan Keith is an icon. But now you can't move them. You got to keep them in their twilight years, and that's kind of rough. And, Johnny Taves is up there, although still – extremely productive. Same thing with Patrick Kane. I'm going to cry the day he leaves or retires because he's my favorite hockey player of all time. But I also understand you have to do what's in the best interest of the franchise, Lanny. So you understand that, as a coach. And sometimes you got to get rid of some of your favorite players. Otherwise, your rebuild is going to be a real rebuild.
Right. Right. Is he retooling or rebuilding? What would you say?
I don't know what he's doing. He putting Band-Aids on surgical procedures. If you have.
He's like, hand me the wrench. Malpractice is going on. I'm pulling stuff out with Mike. I got you. Like my dad used to do, pull it out with his hand.
Yeah, I mean, I and talking again to the hockey people who cover that team, they just feel like, the team is kind of handcuffed with some of his past moves. So, but let's talk about a poll question that we now have.
Oh, you were crazy on this poll question. Come on with it. Tell everybody your poll question.
I blame Kenny McReynolds because he brought it up last
I'm blaming you and Kenny Mack. If you listening, he wants to say, "Oh, I wonder if this is tough." It was your dad anyway.
And those of you watching, please go ahead and comment on the show on Facebook or on the YouTube. So here's our poll question for this week. Let's put it up, Brian. Poll question sponsored by the Chicago Crusader.
Oh.
Which Chicago athlete is stealing checks from their team?
Don't get bashful now. Don't get bashful.
Cristiano Feliciano of the Bulls, Mitch Trubisky of the Bears, Brent Seabrook of the Blackhawks, Chris Bryant of the Cubs, or Edwin Encarnacion of the White Sox. Now, in there, you also see that Cristiano Feliciano is making $7.5 million. Mitch Trubisky this year, $4.5 million. Brent Seabrook, $4 million. Chris Bryant, $18.5 million. And Edwin Encarnacion took $12 million from the White Sox.
Felicio, I know it.
So,
I want to hear what cousin. Come on, cousin.
So those are your questions. Those are your choices in our poll questions sponsored by the Chicago Crusader, who we're doing the show in conjunction with, and who Joseph works for. So Joseph, how about you answer first?
I know it's Felicio. I know it is, man, because I never see him get off the bench. And the Bulls did a bad job of signing him to a long-term contract anyway. Like, we were kind of thirsty for a big man, and we thought he was going to add a different dimension to the squad. But that 2-month project went down the toilet after the first 2 weeks.
Okay. You got Cristiano, Lance. Who you got?
So are we talking about stealing for this year? But still,
Yeah, we'll say
if we talking about
stealing
for this year, see, you a Cubs fan. You don't want to admit it. KB stole this year.
KB,
18 million to bat 200. He stole.
Hey, man.
So get off of Felicio this measly 7 million. Let's go to the 18 million.
Around. I saw Felicio running around a Bugatti, man. What's going
on? Balling. Y'all see the championship ring. But y'all know KB stole this year. You know it too, Joseph. KB didn't steal this year, Joseph.
Well, KB had a beef with the Cubs this year.
He stole. That's my beef.
There's a difference between being an MVP or Rookie of the Year versus being Felicio, whose name is possibly named after a sex. You see what I mean? Like a certain type of oral sex.
No.
That you don't want this guy stealing money from. He's taking up a rough spot.
Time out. YouTube baseball enthusiasts down there. So now, if I'm playing on the Bulls, I'm making $7.5 million.
Yeah.
I average 3.9 points per game.
Yeah.
If I'm playing for the Cubs, I made $18 million and batting 206. That's about the same to me.
With 2 home runs, if I'm not mistaken.
With 2 home runs, thank you.
Hey, Lance, he getting paid for what he did in the past. He got us a World Series, 108 years, broke the curse. He was the National League MVP. He's the Rookie of the Year. He made the All-Star team. It's Scott Boras, man. I'm telling you, Scott Boras got into his head and told him.
This where you need to listen, cuz I asked if it was for this year. This year he
did say that. Okay, so here's my answer.
Yeah, because you started the question anyway. This year, almost said something to you.
First of all, let me say, I believe all of these candidates are worthy. Feliciano is awful.
Where are you?
Trubisky, $4 million just to get benched. Brent Seabrook this year gave the Blackhawks nothing, but it's not his fault that they offered him the money. Chris Bryant this year was pathetic. And at $18.5 million, I think my cousin Lance has got an excellent point because he made more than all of them fools at $18.5 to be terrible. But my vote is actually going to go to Edwin Encarnacion.
Hey, Jay, not to cut you off. That's who Corey Irvin, my sister-in-law, her mother Marlene said he stole. So
I am going with Encarnacion. He got $12 million. Now let me break this down. We got
break it down.
In the segment. Encarnacion got $12 million, and all he had to do was be a designated hitter, and he couldn't do that. Bruh, you ain't got to play the field. You ain't got to pitch. All you got to do is swing the damn bat and get some hits. And he couldn't do that over a period of 60 games. And the third game of the playoffs, they didn't even put him in the lineup. Maybe I put him in the second game either of the playoffs. I can't remember. But I know he didn't play in the most important game of the year that you needed to win. So for that and his $12 million that he just stole from the White Sox, he is the absolute worst. Joseph, we got 1 minute. Tell me what you got coming up this week in the Chicago Crusader.
All right, so I'm doing 3 stories this week. The first story is on Dak Prescott, season-ending injury. On the same day that Alex Smith returned to the NFL. It wasn't a coincidence. I don't think that he got injured on the same day, pretty much the same injury. And following that, also I'll be doing a story on the Bears versus Tampa Bay, them pulling off the victory against them. So that'll be out this week. And then last but not least, also I'll be doing a story on the I think it's the Bulls. So it'll be those 3 stories overall.
Got you. Well, that sounds good, man. And, I wish you could do a story on our poll question, too, man. You need to bump that up because you will get a whole bunch of responses to this one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Say, they are all very worthy candidates.
Hey, my Facebook is blowing up with comments. And Corey Mother, Kenny McReynolds, but at least KB won MVP and Rookie of the Year. Felicio has never done anything.
Right.
I agree. Tell them to drop those comments on our page on the show so that we can post them. Check us out on YouTube Live or Facebook Live on the SportsZone Chicago page. Drop your comments because we know y'all got thoughts, Chicago. Joseph, thank you for joining us. Coming up next, Clyde. Travis is going to join us, and we're going to talk Chicago sports. Stay with us.
See me. See me.
See me. See my dark skin and my kinky hair.
See me. Don't see past me.
Don't see through me.
See me.
See my tan skin and my curly hair.
See me.
Don't see past me.
Don't see through me.
See me.
See my face, wet with tears from years of oppression.
See my hands, weathered and worn from decades of pulling myself up through your society.
See my feet split from centuries of walking your delicate line.
See me.
See me.
See me.
I'm tired.
I'm tired.
I'm tired.
Welcome back, everybody, to What's Up, Cuz. I'm your host, Jason Palmer, along with my cousin, the coach himself, Lanny, Irvin. And boy, we got people fired up with our poll question.
You know what? You a troublemaker. That was a great poll question. Though. We need some more than that. You want to run it high. I wonder if that's too tough. You and Kenny Mack, y'all are the worst, but that was a great question, though. I enjoyed that one.
I mean, I do equate it to them stealing money. You know, I probably could have phrased it differently, but you know.
Stealing. It was stealing. They stole.
All right, well, fine. We'll leave it at that. Oh, God. All right, let's get ready to bring on our first guest. He and I go back, way back. When I covered a lot of high school sports in Chicago, he was always there. He would bounce ideas off me. I would bounce ideas off of him. Just a really great guy. Worked for the Chicago Sun-Times a long time as his prep report. He's now got a show on WVON 1690 AM. That is our black radio station here in Chicago. The talk of Chicago. I've been on VON many times. It's a great outlet for our community, and I really hope they keep that thing going strong and they get better. But I want to bring him on. I know you know him too. Clyde Travis.
Man, this is my man.
Hey, what's up, Clyde?
Hey, what's up, fellas? How you doing?
Oh, we doing good, baby.
I tell you what, CT, we're humbled to have one of the veterans of this business in the building with us, because my cousin think he's a good reporter. He think he's sharp. But you were the best. You were the best. You weren't asking controversial questions like he just asked.
Hey, man. Hey, look, I give him kudos for having whatever to do it. You know what I mean? And you can't soft shoe and make it in this business, man. So keep on doing what you're doing.
That's right.
That was a good question, because honestly, I don't believe any athlete ever steals. I think they should get as much as they can get, as long as they can get it in any way they can get it. So
let me hear you break that down. Then go ahead. Then
every athlete should get as much as they can get, as long as they can get it any kind of way they can get it. If they got to peel their uniform off when they walking off the field, I don't care. Get that paper.
I ain't mad at you, Clyde, but here's the problem. Felicio don't never get off the bench, so he ain't got to peel his uniform off.
Well, that means he's the best of the best doing what he's doing, getting paid for nothing. I mean, he exemplifies what I'm talking about, you know? I mean, you think about it, how did the owners get to be billionaires? I mean, they had a lot of little stuff that was going on with them too. So, you know, you think about it, they're paying other millionaires. So you know how much money they got. You know how they got it. So it's give it up. That's all.
You know let me ask you this real quick before we get started. Oftentimes, like Jason was talking about Seabrook, and we was talking about players with contracts maybe in the latter parts of their careers. And it's basically, you know, you should know when to sit down. Do you think players should be paid an exorbitant amount of money from what they did early in their careers?
Well, they keep fluctuating the rules. You know, at one time, if you remember, when you came in, you got played on potential. The next time, you know, later on down the line, it wasn't about your potential. It was about the status that you had, which you've accumulated over a short window. Now they're changing that. Look, we're crying about Dak Prescott right now. We're crying about Dak, and rightfully so. Dak got paid $31 million guaranteed. Now, if you can't live your life off of that, you're in a world of trouble. Now, also next year, the following year, he's going to get probably sanctioned in to make $37 million. So 31 and 37, he's going to walk away with $68 million most likely. And that's depending on whether he gets back to his status or not. But he's left over 300 plus million on the table. So, so it's a lot of little ancillary things that go on right there, but people have to understand. That's why I say get as much as you can get, as long as you can get it. It's a short window with a very high probability that you could not reach your full potential or something could happen as tragic as what happened with Dak. And, you're out the window. But for the layman, as we look at it, what are we talking about? Man, he's got potentially $68 million. But you look at it, they just paid Foles $20 million to potentially be a backup. So, the money is real funny, and you have to understand the dynamics of it. That's why I have no problem with an athlete getting his holdouts, whatever you got to do to protect yourself, because what's the average life of a NBA player or whatever? It's about 4 years in one, five in the other. Then you play. Then you have to go through your second contract. You don't really get paid to that second contract, and then you steal some money on your third contract. so that's how that goes, man.
Hey, I appreciate that perspective. See, that's why I said that me and Clyde would always bounce ideas off each other.
Hey, I tell you, look, one thing I don't like is an opinion, because I'm gonna give you mine. And Lanny knows that, because you're talking about you, Jakes. I mean, it was so funny talking to Lanny, and guarantee you, I probably wouldn't be doing this for anybody else other than you guys right here, because all this new technology and stuff. I enjoy being off the set, not have to go through this mess. But anyway, it's like I saw all five of them. I saw everybody in the whole family play. I remember when they got here. You know what I mean? It's just pleasure to come back and see guys like yourself, doing what you're doing. And when I started, it was my first year covering preps. Was 1978. And so I got the chance to see all of you all play, develop into who you are, reach the level of success that you ascended to. And man, deep down inside, man, and I'm just glad that I had a little bit to do with that, just to be able to touch you guys like that.
Yeah, without a doubt. We appreciate that. And it's kind of like when I had Kenny Mack on the show too. We had him on last week. We also had him on about a month ago, and I said the same thing to Kenny. I say to you, man, I learned how to do this reporting thing from watching you guys do your thing and just asking you guys a question or two. And you guys were always very helpful with young reporters who come around, even though we're in a very competitive business. You could tell me, hey, Jason, I remember one time you were like, Jason, so I think we were covering a football game at Gateway, and you said, come on, man. I know it's cold down there on the field, but come on, we gonna get down here on the boot. I'm like, Clyde, man, it's like a whole quarter left in the damn game. Why I can't stay up here in the heat? He said, because as soon as they come off the field, you're gonna need to be able to get to them players and them coaches. And if you try to run down there with a minute left and something's happening, you can't get down the field, you're gonna miss a chance to get a story.
I remember that plain as day. You know what I mean? That was just a little pearl of wisdom that somebody told me. I mean, it's you always, like you said, it's a competitive business. You're always looking for an edge. I was fortunate enough to be able to break more stories than enough, and it's almost like you say, by any means necessary. But I just felt as an obligation to a young Black reporter coming along. I wasn't going to tell you all my secrets now, but it was some I kept. But it's a way to do things. Because you have to figure this, like Lanny would tell you, this is like in coaching. You go to a camp, you go to this, that, and the other, you share wisdom and knowledge, and people breaking down, but they're not going to tell you how to run every play. They're not going to tell you how to get out of every situation. That's what you call it. You figure it out on your own. That's how you become the coach that you are, the player that's how you became the player that you were, and that's how things go.
One thing you did a great job of doing, CT, was you formed a real good relationship with coaches too.
Yes.
Talk about how you formed those relationships, because you have coaches that you still talking to this day. Can you talk about that?
Well, one thing that transpired over that time that a lot of people don't know. I used to have people in the suburbs and and Catholic league. They say, "Oh, you the public league coach." Well, one thing is I have a political consciousness. So I really understood the dynamics of what a lot of city coaches were going through in terms of, putting clothes on a person, feeding an individual, interceding when they didn't have any guidance. It was so much that goes on behind the scenes. And I used to kind of, I kind of admired that. I mean, Lanny, I can't even tell you, one of the people I admired most was your daddy. You know what I mean? And me and Mac used to go at it all the time. Listen to Mac. Mac wanted to do my all-city team for me, I said, Mac, you can't have everybody, Mac. Oh, man, he can't play. I said, Mac, okay, hey, but that's another story. But it's about those type of things, man, that you just have to you just have to garner those relationships. And don't believe that I didn't have. I mean, I had some knockdown. Everybody that I'm a friend with today, that I consider a true person. I'm talking about the Pitts. I mean, George Stanton, even Russell. I mean, just even the younger Wolf Nelson. I can go down the line of different people. Vince Carter, believe it or not, we used to go butt heads. And I mean, I had a real great conversation with him that kind of changed my opinion of how I thought about him. I said, so you have to not be afraid. I was never afraid to be confrontational with anybody. Because Lanny, you stepped to me wrong, you're just gonna get now you come to me in a way in which I felt was a non-threatening way. You can say whatever you want to me. But if I felt like you were coming to me and challenging my manhood, you was gonna get manhood in return. You wasn't gonna get, no, it wasn't gonna be like that. Right. And so I think coaches respected that part of my game too. And the other part that I thought that a lot of young reporters don't do, and it's changed a lot now. You don't have to write about everything. You don't have to write about everything. The story is not bigger than the situation. And I do know that if I wrote about some of the things that I could have written about, I probably would have had a Pulitzer Prize. I mean, to me, it was about the integrity of what somebody was trying to do versus maybe the outcome of what they did. And that's why I never got, I love people. I mean, it's like Sonny Cox. Sonny Cox was the master at what he did. Everybody else was trying to do it, just couldn't do it as good. And they would get, now sometimes he took it over the top. Bob Hambrick had a way about himself. Don Pittman had a way about himself. Luther Bedford and the West Side Boys had a way about themselves. They all understood what it took to do what they had to do in the public league with the limited amount of resources and things of that nature. So, I mean, we had some knockdown drag outs. One of my all-time great situations that was really chaotic for me was, when with Larry Alloway. I can go down the lines. I mean, Larry Alloway was a great player. He got kind of turned around a little bit on the academic side. We had to come off the team. And Sonny did everything he could to try to get that boy back on the team. And I told Sonny, I said, look, man, I'm not going to lose the story behind this bull crap. I'm telling you right now. Man, hold off. Because I knew a week before it was happening, it was going to go down. I said, Sonny, I'm not going to blow this story and let somebody else get it.
That's right.
And when I went with the story, now naturally Sonny got mad. But a day later, everybody had the story. But guess who had it first?
There you go.
It's so many other things that I did and didn't do. I mean, I wasn't always perfect, but I wasn't always scared to be wrong.
There you go. Once again, we're joined by longtime Chicago journalist Clyde Travis. He's joining us here on the What's Up Cuz show. Lance, you got another question for Clyde?
Yeah, I think anybody that played high school sports CT, we all knew that you and Taylor Bell was basically the face of Chicago sports. Do you think high school sports has changed from 10 to 20 years ago from where it is now? Do you think it's better or you think it's worse?
Okay, well, let me tell you. I think the top 5 schools probably could play with anybody. I think that's it. I mean, I'm being very serious about that. I remember there were times, and you can attest to this, Lanny, being the great player that you were. There were times when I think I covered the Red West And at that time, I think there were 8 teams in the Red West.
Mm-hmm.
And 6 of them almost had the same record.
Mm-hmm.
There were 2 that one didn't win any games and the other one won 1 game. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But you couldn't go up in any situation and think you was going to get a win. I remember the great Kevin Garnett when he came to Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him a simple question. I said, Kevin, what's the difference between Chicago ball and South Carolina? You know how Kevin talked. And he said, damn, everybody here think they can play. You know? he said, and ain't nobody backing down. And that was from Kevin. He said, man, he said, I can intimidate people down south. You know, my game was, superior to everybody. He said, but in here he said, the last person on the team is not going to back down. You got to come with it every day. Mm-hmm. And that was like all out, as you saw, that probably was the greatest team that will never get acknowledged as the greatest basketball team because of one loss. Mm-hmm. Because of one loss. Now that it wasn't as big an upset as a lot of people want to make it out to be,
right?
Because people on that other side of that team, they had a crew.
Yes, they did. I mean?
But they were athletes versus basketball players. You had Kevin Garnett, you had Ronnie Fields, you had a young Michael Wright, Jamel Roan. I mean, they were just. But Ronnie Fields and Kevin Garnett alone were better than anybody else in the United States almost. So you would have never thought. But on the other side of that team, which is really something, you had Napoleon Harris, Ty Streets. Come on, Lanny, help me out here, boy.
A
young Melvin Eli. So you had athletes versus Randall L. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't no chopped liver over there, but they weren't hoopers like Chicago had. So if they had won that one game, I truly believe that they would have gone down as the greatest team in Chicago.
And the funny thing about that, Clyde, we had Melvin on the show about 3-4 weeks ago, and Melvin admitted to us now, 20 years later, hey man, I found Kevin Garnett on that last play.
Oh well, yeah, well he did. I mean, it was no question. I was right there. You know what I mean? And I mean, he didn't foul it. You tell Melvin, he just almost broke his arm off, and it didn't get called. But that's the way it is. And you guys know from being around sports as long as you have, is one thing about a bully. That year, Farragut had the bully complex. They were so much better than anybody. They had the two of the most imposing people that ever played in Chicago, right? Mm-hmm. So if you stayed close with them, people automatically sentimentally felt, oh man, David hanging in here with Goliath. Mm-hmm. And they got the benefit down the stretch of several calls. And I don't think it wasn't a bad unofficiated game or anything else like that, but down the stretch, it was close. And Ty went to the Warriors, the young Warriors, and that's what happened. Plus, like I said, they weren't, Kevin. I remember when Kevin came down and did something, and he turned around and he looked at Napoleon Harris, and Napoleon flexed on him, and Kevin went back on in the huddle. You know what I mean? Now he wasn't going to do that to anybody. I remember, if you remember, and you were down there. The opening play of the game, what happened? Ronnie took off from about 15 feet
he did.
And cracked it back here. Sure. What happened right next? What happened right after that? He ran into the state of Illinois long jump and high jump champ. He took it back here and cracked it too. So game on. So I mean, that was one of the most exciting games that I saw. But
without a doubt.
Hey CT, I don't mean to cut you off, but Nick just sent me a text saying, "Tell CT my Carver team was really good that year too." That's what Nick just sent me a text.
You tell Nick the only thing he talk about is there 8 straight jumpers that he hit. No, that was you know what? That was probably the best team that nobody ever. How can I put it? That team was cold. I mean, they had they would have won the city champ. I'm convinced they would have won the city championship that year. So, Nick, I'm telling you the truth. I am convinced. I am with you when I say that team I think that was 95.
It was.
Because Nick was a sophomore, right? Boy, it's funny, man. I got that old folks. I can remember a long time ago. But in 1995, Nick was a sophomore. Nick probably had one of the best quarters I've ever seen in basketball. But in 1995, they had no gaps. And the only thing that prevented them from winning the state championship, in my opinion, is Kevin Garnett comes up and shows out of the clear blue nowhere and mucked up the game. And that was, I mean, who could expect that? Who could prepare for that? But Pitt had a crew that year. He had an awesome crew that year. So I'm not gonna argue with Nick. And that was probably one of the best performances that I've ever seen. By a sophomore, I mean, he was just throwing stuff. He had his eyes closed and was throwing the ball in the basket.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that was a legendary game.
Yeah, that was a great game.
And let me ask you this: the coaches, you've talked about it a little bit. These legendary coaches that you got to work with. Who was your favorite person to kind of interview and why?
Whoa,
favorite. Okay, well. That's kind of unique because everybody had a different personality. I used to love to interview Cox because he's always had loose lips, sink ships, and all that kind of stuff. He always had he said fish can't get caught until he opened his mouth. You know what I mean? So and the other thing is Hambrick was the philosopher. You know what I mean? Hambrick was a very enigmatic, politically conscious kind of guy. And he would really irk people by being so evasive in the way he answered questions. By a classic example, I was one of the few people that can walk into Hambrick's locker room anytime, talk to the kids. Mm-hmm. And that used to irk a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And a couple of reporters came and said, man, they actually called down the board, and the board then called Hambrick and said, if you're gonna let him in, you gotta let anybody. And Hambrick said, you don't tell me who to let in my locker room because it's my locker room. He said, and he can come in that locker room whenever he wants to, because he's more than a reporter to all these kids.
There you go.
I just like my other guy was Pitt. I used to like Pitt because Pitt was so fiery. Pitt he created a style with his South Shore and Carver teams. Another person was like Luther Beppert. Luther, when I got to Chicago, Luther brought me down to his office and he asked me to interview two kids right there in front of him. Well, I interviewed one kid and this kid was so articulate and talking and this, that, and the other. And I interviewed the next kid. And so Luther said, what did you think about kid number one? I said, man, yeah, he answered the question best he could and so forth. He said, what do you think about guy number two? I said, I don't know what the hell he was talking about. He said, what do you think he was talking about? I said, I imagine he was trying to answer my questions, Luther. He said, well, that's what you write. So you know what? And a lot of things happen that people don't understand. I didn't write. You never saw me writing colloquialisms. Mm-hmm. I despise that. This, that, and doesn't. How people. I found some of those things unnecessary, so I cleaned some of those things up. And I had a teacher, an English teacher from King High School. I did a story on Johnny Self. Mm-hmm. And I may have cleaned his stuff up a little too much. and the teacher wrote to the Sun-Times and said, I have been teaching Johnny for 4 years, and he has never, ever used any language close to resembling the King's English in his life. And I find it very disingenuous that Clyde Travis would not write in the way in which Johnny spoke. And so Taylor and I got into it, and I said, I'm not doing that.
That's right.
And so, but at the same time, I look back at it now, and I think by doing it that way, I let them off the hook. But I also, and Lanny would tell you this, this is off the record, statute of limitations is over. It wasn't nothing for me to grab you up in your chest and say, hey man, look, do this, go to class.
That's right.
This, that, and I gotta, you know why I love Lanny? I'm gonna tell you right now, Jason. This is my Lanny story. This is my favorite Lanny story. Yeah, I'm gonna tell it. Mac and I got into an argument one time. And Lanny was just looking. He said, oh, Lord, what am I going to do now? And Mac and I was steaming. And afterwards, we came close. We went on about our business. And Lanny would see me. He would go to the other side of the street. He would see me. So one day, I said, Lanny, come here. He said, Clyde, that's my daddy. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was going to go down with my daddy. I said, I love you, boy. I said, because it wasn't no question, nowhere. It was. I said, your daddy was wrong, and I was wrong. The only person that was right in that whole event was you. And you go down with your daddy. And you know what I mean? He said, well, I was going to go down with my daddy, win, lose, the draw. I respected that so much, because me and Mac were heated over, I told you, Mac used to love to do all my picks for me. I said, but that was Mac, and I mean, I love Mac. And Mac and I would argue one minute and then tell him that I'd be over at the house the next minute eating and talking and acting crazy. But it was over.
Exactly. And here's the thing, CT, as black men, I saw you and my father talk. Like, a confrontation is not a bad thing. And a lot of times we're not able to communicate our feelings and what we feel towards each other. And it's okay to talk it out. And that's the thing about you, CT. Like, you wasn't going to let Pops write your stories, even though he might have had trash. Like, no, Mac, that's not that.
Yeah.
So, no, I appreciate that. And you know what I really want to ask you too, CT, in terms of resources that the public schools have and don't have compared to the suburban schools. Do you think the resources, if we had equal resources, we would have won more state championships?
Well, I won't. You know what? I'm gonna kind of put a little caveat to that. I think coaches did amazing, especially in basketball, with what they did, what they had. And it shows you now because they continue to do this when they broke up into the state. The little fragmented groups that they had 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. Remember back in the day, it was only a 1A. I mean, it was a 1A, one whatever. How was it? It was 1A. Yeah, right. So I think what has happened in terms of the resource thing, I think if they had allowed the public league to fairly be disseminated throughout the state basketball tournament, and I tell you, the great John Robinson and Jim Flynn told me this. They said, Clyde, we're not going to let you guys come down here and ruin the state tournament. And what they meant was, if you remember, Whitney Young and Simeon played in the Class A finals with the number 1 and number 2 team in the state. And the place was almost empty.
Yep. They don't like that down there.
They did not like, the place was almost empty and none of the downstate people showed up. And you had the best 2 teams, number 1 and number 2 in the state. So if they had done what you're talking about, Lance, and the resources or whatever, is one thing. But if they had to open it up and done different things and allowed certain things to transpire, they did everything they could to hold the public league down. But in 1972, they came out we got one. They were cheating. Trust me, up until 72, they were cheating so bad. And in 1972, they gave us the automatic berth, which some people liked and some people didn't.
Hey, Clyde, hold on 1 second. I got to go to break, but stay with us. I'm going to bring you back right after the break, okay? We'll be right back with Clyde Travis.
Compassion, noun. Sympathetic pity and concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others. We're all born with it. It's in us. Don't believe me? When you hear a baby cry, something pulls at you. You want to ease that pain. You want to soothe that hurt. No one had to teach you that. It's called compassion, and it's in you. However, at some point you turned it off when it came to me.
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 The cries of my soul have gone unheard, but today, you will hear me.
My heart has wailed a melody loud enough to shatter your ears and you ignored me. But this week, you will hear me.
This body has beat the drums of anguish, only to be silenced. But this month, you will hear me.
This year,
This decade,
This century,
I will be heard. And
you will be the one to hear me.
and when I am finally heard,
Show compassion.
show compassion.
show compassion.
Remember.
It's in you.
Welcome back, everybody, to What's Up, Cuz. I'm your host, Jason Palmer, along with Lanny, and we're joined by Clyde Travis here for just a couple more minutes. And Clyde, I can't let you get out of here without telling the story that I remember you told me. You were driving one day, and you had a little bit of a lead foot, and you got pulled over by a particular police officer, and you were like, "Oh Lord, I'm about to get a ticket." And then the guy looks at your license, looked back at you, looked at your license, looked back at you and said, "Hey man, ain't you the dude from the Sun-Times?" You said, "Yeah." He said, "Man, you wrote a great story about my son last year."
Hey, I got a couple of those, believe it or not. Hey, man, you know what? And that's the beauty of it. And like I said, I look back at Byron, I look back at Lanny, I look back at McLaughlin. Then you come back with Cindy, Mikey, and Nick. And I mean, I know families like that, man. I've had a good, because I started out, most people don't know. Before I got to the Sun-Times, I was the assistant sports editor at the City News Bureau, which was the wire service for the entire city. That was like the epitome. That was like the creme de la creme place, when you're coming out and just starting off in the business in journalism, Okay. And that's why I formulated those bonds and those relationships, because I had to talk, I had to chase everybody down, I had to write the wire, we were using the wire service then, for the AP, UP, Sun-Times Tribune. I mean, they all used to see Sun-Times Wire or City News Bureau Wire. So the relationships. If you'd have told me I've been in Chicago for 40 years when I came here, I'd have bet my firstborn, my house, and all the money I was going to make that you were alive.
Yeah,
I thought this was a pit stop, and now you can't drag me out of here. I mean, when I go out of here, I guess that's the way they're going to grab me. Well, we
ain't going to drag you out of here, but before you go, because I know you got a show to do tonight.
Right.
Tell us about the show. Tell us the name of the show, where we can find it.
Hey, WVON 1690 AM. It's all, man, it's about Chicago, the legends of Chicago, everything that's pertaining to Chicago. I go back to 40s, the 50s, 60s. It's a generational thing, every sport. I've had the honor of having some real hitters on. As a matter of fact, Lanny's been on the show. Nick's been on the show. I mean, Hamilton, on and on. I mean, so I was really fortunate. After I left the Sun-Times, I got sick for a while. And, if you saw me right now, you probably wouldn't recognize me. I went from 215 down to I'm about $156 now. You know what I mean? And God willing, and the creek don't rise, man. Everything is okay. And VON offered me this opportunity. They came to me and asked me would I want to do something. I said, as long as you all don't get out in my way, stay out of my way, allow me to do it the way I want to do it, I'll do it. And they say, hey, the floor is yours, man. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's worked out. It's worked out well. Like I said, got a great show for tonight. And got Isaiah Juice Williams coming on. You know.
Nice.
And, you know.
That's 9 o'clock, right?
Yeah, the show is from 9 a.m. 9 p.m. to midnight, you know.
9 p.m. to midnight.
Yeah,
Everybody tune in.
You know what? It's enough love, you know, like I said, that's why I love stuff like this. It's enough love to go around, man.
Yes,
you know, and the message, you know, there are many people that can disseminate the message and be productive and be positive. Hey man, you know, hey, look, man, this is what we all about, man. We need to keep, you know, you guys have a great show, and trust me, I've been asked to do a lot of different shows, and this is the first one that I personally have been on. I'm gonna tell Nick, Lance, no, you know what I mean. So you know, it's a I owe you, I want to, and I wouldn't be me and the person that I am the way I was raised. Did not help some young brother. I keep saying young brothers. You guys, I mean, I remember when y'all was shortest. So,
that's why we appreciate
it. We appreciate it, baby.
You know, I remember Lanny when he was 12, man. So I mean, you know,
and we appreciate it.
He's older than that now.
So much. Thank you so much, Clyde.
You guys are doing a great job, and keep up the good work, man. And
We'll do. All right, that's Clyde Travis, everybody. Check out this show tonight, 9 o'clock p.m. till midnight on WVON, the Talk of Chicago, 1690. Thank you, Clyde. Take care of yourself, brother. We love you.
All right, guys, take it easy.
All right. Love Clyde, man. Like I say, he was one of the dudes I talked to a lot, man, when I was coming up in this line of work, man. So I love that dude. And I know he's got ties with the family. And we're going to bring on another family friend here in a second, man. We got to talk some NBA Finals. LeBron James gets another ring along with Anthony Davis, our boy from Chicago, and also Taylor Horton. He also from Chicago. He's on that Lakers team, right?
Yep.
So Taylor gets a ring. He get a ring too. So we're gonna bring on someone who played in the NBA. He was fighting a Illini, came out of King High School, played for Sonny Clocks that Clyde was just talking about. We lost Sonny here recently, last few months ago, but we needed a guest to come on to talk about the NBA and the legacy of LeBron and what all the NBA is doing. And we reached out to this brother, and he responded right away. So let's just bring him on, our brother Marcus Limited. Marcus, what's up, man?
Man, what's going on, Jason? What's going on, Lanny?
That's my man right there. That's the legend right there. We keep talking about LeBron. That's the legend right there. That's my man right there.
That's right. That's right.
ML right there. Ooh, that man right there, Jay. That's all I'm gonna say. When you saw Lib play, Lib gave you a whole show. I remember playing with Lib at the what is that like, the YVI over there? You would have thought the YVI was like Chicago Stadium. Lib was like, "Come on, Lenny, man, let's go play. So I'm like, all right, cool. We get them like Lib. It's about 5,000 people out here to watch you play, man. He didn't disappoint either.
No, he never did. He never did. You know, when Lib was playing, he was in the Red Central against us. So, I got to see him playing. Now, I went to 2 basketball games at Lindblom my entire time there. And both of them was against King because I wanted to see King. And I was like, y'all my friends, but we about to get our asses whipped. I like, we about to lose by 40, but it's going to be fun watching it. So let's go, Lindblom. Let's go, Marcus. Go get him.
Hey, and it was fun playing at Lindblom, man. We had to make that adjustment because the ceiling was so low. But had a great time, man. I got nothing but respect for Chicago Hoopers, man, in general. And, man, I heard about y'all's show, man. You're doing big things. And I was listening backstage. You guys had me backstage for a little bit, listening to Travis talk a little bit, man. And much respect for you guys, man.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. Thank you so much. So, Lance, let's go ahead and get into this NBA talk with Marcus. How about that?
Man, Liv, what you think about what the Lakers did to the Miami Heat? I said they was going to win 4-2. What's your overall thought on the Lakers? Do you think, like, look, the Bron cement his legacy by winning his 4th championship? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, man, with COVID, being in full effect, it didn't really seemed like an NBA championship game because of the fans. You know, you couldn't have the fans there. Of course, everybody was competing, but it was really no, I would say, home court. You couldn't get no home court advantage because everybody was playing in one location, you know. So the fans, so I'm just going to say, for instance, if Miami had their fan base behind them and Lakers were playing in Miami, we might see a different turnout. We might have saw a different turnout because young guys, we know how young guys play. They feed off their crowd. I think those young guys would have fed off their crowd a little bit more, and we probably would have saw a different turnout. We probably would have went to 7 games probably. But no, we can't take nothing away from what LeBron James has done. You know, his body of work, we seen it day in and day out. People, you know, I always got the comparison to GOAT and all this, but I just think in his era, you know, LeBron James is definitely the GOAT, you know, in his era. And I know you can't use that word a lot, but you can't take nothing away from that guy. He's been doing it. He's been doing it night in and night out for a very long time.
That's the thing, Liv. Like, it's so many people. I hate using the word hating, but they always like, I can't stand LeBron. I can't stand LeBron. And my question is, and my thing is, why not?
Right.
He does great with the community. He's a good basketball player. He never does anything wrong. Why do you think people hate on him as much as they hate on him?
Well, Michael Jordan spoiled them. I mean, Michael Jordan spoiled us, man, because he was going to take that last shot, you know. So most of the time, your elite best player is going to take that shot, you know, that final shot. They want the rock in their hands. Kobe was that guy. So everybody want LeBron James to be this guy. But LeBron James, I talked to a bunch of people. They say he's still playing the same way like he was in high school. He's going to always make the right play. He's not going to take that. He's not going to force a bad shot. So it is what it is with him. So I think a lot of times fans get so caught up in, man, he's a star player. He's supposed to take that shot, you know. And LeBron James has always been that team player. If I got 2 guys or 3 guys collapsing on me, somebody got to be open. So I'm going to make that pass.
And you know what, Lip? I thought he made the right play, like, just to see fans going off on social media, like Mike would have shot it, and I'm telling people, well, Mike passed it to Steve Kerr, but you understand the game, Lip. Anytime you draw 3-4 people, pass it. Now it's up to Danny Green to step in and make it. But with that being said, I thought he made the right play.
Yeah. And I joke around with it sometimes, man. I said if that was me, I would have took that shot. and my fellow high school players would agree with me. They were like, man, Liv, you did not like passing that rock, man. But you know, I was like, man, it's on me. You know, I'm that guy though, Lanny. I would say, you know what, if it comes down to it, I want to be the one to say, you know what, if I make it, rah. If I don't, then it was on me. It's on me.
You know what, Lib? The funny part sitting there talking to you, if I would have been playing with you at camp, I would have been like, hey, ML, now, you know you got to score this thing now. so whatever you going to do, I'm rolling with you. So make sure you get us a good shot now. Yeah. And you would have looked at me, shake your head like, man, Lanny, I got you, man. Let's go get it together.
That's right.
Yeah. Let's give it a joy about Marcus Liberty. We're talking a little bit about the NBA Finals. Let's talk about, on the other side, Miami and Jimmy Butler. You know, Jimmy has caught a lot of heat, said he couldn't lead a team. They even tried to call him a cancer to a team. And I thought all that was unfair. Just talk about his development and what he did this year in leading the Heat all the way to the finals and beating Milwaukee, you know, which nobody thought was really going to happen.
Well, Jason, man, I'll tell you this, you know, watching Jimmy, you know, getting drafted by the Bulls, showing some glimpse of, you know, things that he could possibly do. We knew he was a two-way player. He can play defense and he can get you some buckets. But he started maturing as a basketball player when you saw him in Miami. You know, he embraced, you know, that leadership role. The young guys love him. You can hear him talking about him. And he did it Jimmy Butler's way. He didn't get caught up in what people say, oh, man, he don't shoot threes enough, you know, because that's the of the game. They talking about everybody has to shoot 3-pointers. He's reminds me of a throwback, old school basketball player, grit. I'm gonna get to the basket. Even though they were sagging off of him at times, he was still going to the basket no matter what. He just played his game, and I like that about him. And it showed that he is ready to take it to that next level now. And I think you're going to see a different Miami team next year because he got a taste of that success, and now he's going to roll with it.
Yeah, and I agree with you there, Marcus. And I think the key is going to be, and I'll just bring it up, Giannis is kind of throwing hints that he ain't really happy in Milwaukee. And, I'm up here in Wisconsin, so I'm messing with the Wisconsin folk, Marcus, because that's what Chicago people do. It's like, y'all ain't going to be able to keep him, right? He ain't going to stay in no Milwaukee. He going to a real city. He ain't getting out of here. You think he going to force a trade and end up in Miami next year?
You know what, Jason, I was thinking the same thing. Pat Riley is real slick with it, man. He knows how to package something up real nice to make it interesting. Like looking at it, Miami really was one more player away from, winning a championship. So can you imagine if Giannis team up with Jimmy Butler and some of those young guys? I know they might have to give up some of those young guys, at least one or two of them. But Giannis and Butler and Nunn and Hero, I think you got a pretty doggone good team that can compete for that Eastern Conference title.
I think Kendrick Nunn had a great year. I was kind of disappointed they didn't play him more in the series. I thought he should have played a little bit more. He was like second in the Rookie of the Year ballot. When you talk about Miami, you being in Florida right now, what is the Miami Heat's culture? Because I always hear it's about grit and grind, and I think they do a good job in getting their players better. What's your thoughts on them getting their players better and they player development standpoint and their culture?
Well, it starts with the head man, Pat Riley. Pat Riley was the guy that was doing that from day one, and I don't think he's going to change his philosophy. He wants you to be in the best shape you can possibly be in because it's going to be a grind, and he goes out and get those type of players, and if you don't buy in, a lot of times you see the players that are not buying in, they out of there. He don't mess around with it and trying to mold you and say, yeah, you got to do this. You got to buy in right away, immediately. And if you don't, you got a good chance you won't be there much longer.
So do you think more people need to be a little bit stern with it, more coaches and more organizations need to be stern with their players? Because oftentimes people holler players coach. I get that. But with Pat Riley, I'm hearing like, Pat Riley is on you. It's our way. This how we do things. Do you think the modern day player is equipped for that still?
Yeah, I think it depends on who's it coming from. Pat Riley's been there, done that. He was born, been a leader. He coached a lot of great basketball players: Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Tim Hardaway, Lonzo Mourning, Shaquille O'Neal. So he had those type of players. So how could you not respect him? But yeah, we are living in a different time, though. We do have a lot of players not respecting, the authority from the leadership up top. Sometimes you see guys coming in and wanting to make their own changes and do it their way instead of buying into what the system is, whatever organization that may be, whether that's Miami, the Lakers. Now we're seeing Lakers building up their chemistry of the way they like to have their team make up. So it's a lot going on, but Miami definitely has that type of team that you see. Kendrick Nunn, who didn't get drafted, but Miami saw something in him that they liked. Maybe somebody else didn't like it, but he liked it. And that's what kind of players they get. They find those hidden gems, those diamond in the rough that people seem to pass on, and they make them special.
Once again, we're joined by NBA veteran, Chicago King High School alum, and a member of the Fighting Illini of 1989, the Flying Illini of 89, Marcus Liberty. And once again, if you were watching us, remember we're doing this show in conjunction with the Chicago Crusader Newspaper, and we do have a poll question. Our poll question this week is a great poll question. Which Chicago athlete is still in checks from their team? Is it Cristiano Feliciano from the Bulls? Is it Mitch Trubisky of the Bears? Is it Brent Seabrook of the Blackhawks? Is it Chris Bryant of the Cubs? Or is it Edwin Encarnacion of the White Sox? So we got every team represented. Marcus, even though you're from Florida, you're still a Chicagoan. So I know you still keep up with our sports. Who's stealing checks up here, Marcus?
Man, I would have to say Mitch, man. I would have to say Mitch.
Ooh, break that down, Liv. Why you say Mitch stealing?
Man, you know, Chicago, we are so spoiled, man. We want to see a great, a good team. And when you draft somebody that high, the expectation is we expect you to come in and do your job. And he hasn't done that. He hasn't delivered. So I'm gonna ride with him. That's the person I'm gonna ride with. We want to win some Super Bowls again, man.
Yeah, again, we need another one. We don't get one. I'm with you, Marcus. Last time we won the Super Bowl, were you even a freshman and king in '86?
It's been a long time, man. A long time. You know, like the old sweet song. It's been a long time coming, but I know we gonna get one.
Right. You ain't lying. Hey, Marcus, but you brought up a good point about Kendrick Nunn. We also had Anthony Davis on the Lakers. We had Taylor Horton also on the Lakers. So we had 3 players from Chicago who got to play in this NBA Finals. And I know you still do coaching and stuff down there in Florida. Talk a little bit about Chicago basketball, where it stands now. You know, what is the perspective around the country? Are we still considered the absolute best for creating prep players who can then go on and play for colleges and the pros, or has our prestige kind of taken a hit in recent years?
No, I don't think it took a hit at all. I understand what happened, with all the senseless violence. A lot of parents uprooted. They left and went to different states for the safety of their family and their children. But those who can't afford, they have to stay there and try to make things happen the best possibly way they can, because they can't just uproot their family. And I think Chicago basketball, and when you go in there and recruit as a college coach, you're going to get a tough-minded, athletic, I'm going to do what you ask me to do type of player. And if you turn me loose, it's really going to be on. And I think that's what type of players that college coaches know they're going to get when they come into Chicago. I see it all the time.
And one of the things, too, did you also hear about the players from Chicago in basketball is just their basketball instincts and their basketball IQ and acumen in general is just off the charts. And while they may lack in some aspects, some of the X's and O's of the game when they get to the college level, their natural feel for the game, stuff that can't be taught, they already have. Is that something that you kind of see as well, or do you even agree with that at all?
Well, I think with AAU basketball in general, it's kind of taken away from back when we were playing, that we went to a lot of camps. We actually went to a lot of camps and got the fundamentals and development, and you just don't have that as much now. So it's more like, let's just play. We roll the ball out. You want the kids to play. You want these kids to get looks from colleges. So you don't really have enough time to develop them like you should. So I think it hurts the game a little bit. Maybe if they can minimize the AAU circuit and start working and saying all these AAU programs, let's implement this. Let's work on the fundamentals. Let's start teaching the kids the game of basketball. So when they do get the looks from these college coaches, that the college coaches actually see something that they can actually work with.
Talk about your organization down in Florida. Talk to us about Liberty Edge basketball, because I know you one of the premier, let me use the word premier workout guys in the whole country. Talk about what you do for your players out there, Liv.
Well, Lanny, when I first got down here, man, I knew I wanted to start something, and I wanted to start something nice. And I came up, of course, using my last name, Liberty. And then I said, well, how can I, implement something to get the kids to understand that I can prepare them a little bit before. So I put the edge. So I said, if I can give them the edge, prepare them before the things that may come their way, then I know I can help a lot of kids do the things that they need to do on the basketball court. So I just use my life experience when I'm teaching the game of basketball, and I try to let the kids know you're going to make mistakes. That's why we practice. But when the game time comes, I'm thinking you're going to get it. So if we do repetitions over and over again, don't try to reinvent the wheel. It's so many trainers out here want to do 3 balls, 4 balls, 5 ball dribbling and all this stuff, man. Yeah, it looks cute and all, but really, we really trying to get the kids to develop it. When they playing basketball, they dribbling one basketball, one. And I just try to stress that as much as possible. I work on the basic fundamentals because that is missing. I still work and teach the mid-range game because that was something that I was taught. Even though, the game has changed, you got to shoot the 3 ball. But I think the mid-range game is still alive. I still teach it. I think kids need to get that feel of how it feels to shoot the jump shot, and then you can work your way out.
Let's talk about the Chicago Bulls, Lib. I know Anthony Davis is a free. Well, he can opt out. If you're Anthony Davis, would you opt out and come to the Chicago Bulls?
It depends, Lanny. Like if he wants to start his own, legacy, then you want to get away from LeBron James and then start your own path, to greatness. Maybe you can get somebody to come follow you to Chicago. I heard him say it before that he would love to play for the Chicago Bulls. It's a good way. It's a big market. Not saying I know LA is the biggest market, but LeBron James is kind of overshadowing that. If he comes to Chicago, it's his show. It's his show. And if he can bring along another player, a top tier player, I think he can win because the East, as we know it, you saw what Miami just did. Mm-hmm. You only need a couple of players and some role players around them. You can build you a nice little program right home in Chicago.
Without a doubt. Well, Marcus, we really appreciate you jumping on here and talking with us and sharing some stories with us. And we're wishing you the best of luck down there in Florida. I know you're doing great things down there, but you're always going to be a Chicagoan with us, and we love you so much. And just thank you for coming on, and we wish you the best down there in Florida, man.
Man, I appreciate it, guys. Anytime you guys want me to come on, man, I got nothing but love for Chicago. That's what we all about.
Man, Lib, but I just have to throw this out there real quick, Jay. Maya Dohai, Maya went to Iowa, Lib. Maya is our super producer. She normally comes out when people that didn't go to Iowa comes on the show. For some reason, Lib, she won't jump on the show today. She's like, Marcus. I said, Marcus went to UI. I dare you to jump on the show and ask Lib.
Oh, look at her. Oh.
Lance, you know better than this. You know better than this. I said I was perfectly fine with him going to Illinois because look at that squad. That's something to talk about.
What squad was that? You said he should have went to Iowa.
I did not say that.
What you say, Maya? I might have heard you.
Okay,
wrong.
You did hear me wrong. I said he was on a squad at Illinois. So what? No, I'm not going to negate that. No, never.
But no. Big props though to Iowa, man. We could not beat Iowa at Iowa, man. I'm not going to even lie. We could not beat them at Iowa, man.
Why you have to give Maya credit, Liz?
We couldn't, but vice versa. They couldn't win at our place either, So it kind of broke even, man. They had Ed Horton, B.J. Armstrong, Roy Marble. They had some great athletes, man. Back then, Iowa, Illinois, Michigan State, even Northwestern was pretty good back then, man. So it wasn't no easy out, man, in the Big Ten back in the 80s.
But I'm going to say this too, and he's right, and I'll give it to you. Basketball-wise, Illinois probably had us when you were there. Honestly, they did. Now, we talk football. If you were a football player, I would have told you was at the wrong school. That's what I would have said about that, but you didn't. So it was fine that he went to Illinois for basketball. Lance, stop being an instigator.
Yeah, man.
I just wanted you to talk to Lib because Lib might want to do a show one day.
You trying to start stuff on the show, man.
I said Lib might want to do a show.
We gotta go to commercial anyway. Thank you for joining us, man.
All right, peace, man. All right.
You see me.
You hear me.
Respect me.
Respect. Due regard for the feelings, wishes, rights, or traditions of others.
We don't have to agree, but I deserve to be heard. I stand my ground. Respect me.
We don't have to be friends, but I deserve your civility. I stand my ground. Respect me.
You don't have to understand my culture, but I deserve to be authentically myself. I stand my ground. Respect me.
I stand in defiance of your need to make me less in order for you to feel adequate.
I stand.
I stand aware that the America that you see and love today is a result of my free labor.
I stand.
I stand knowing that the contempt you have for me was not instigated by me, but perpetuated by the fear you have of me. I stand.
I stand surviving your many attempts to emasculate me. Indeed, I thrive despite it.
I stand realizing that you take many things from me, but I will not allow you to take my respect.
I am a man.
I am a proud man.
I am a proud black man.
I am authentically, undisputedly, unapologetically a proud black man.
I am authentically, undisputedly, unapologetically a proud black man.
I am authentically, undisputably, unapologetically a proud black man.
Respect me. I have done more than enough to deserve it, and still you withhold it.
The bill is past due.
You owe me.
Respect me. Respect me.
Respect me.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to What's Up, Cuz. I'm your host, Jason Palmer, along with my cousin, Lanny Irvin. And just to mention, the public service announcements that are being run on our show have all been created by Deanna Reed Foster. She's a good friend of mine and a classmate from Lindblom. And once again, we did create this show. We are born out of this social justice movement that is going on around the country. So we are going to do whatever we can to promote this stuff. And next week, we're going to have a little bit of a different feel of our show as well. I'm going to do something that's kind of really focused on breast cancer awareness and domestic violence. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month and Domestic Violence Awareness Month here in October. So I'm going to have a little bit of different feel to the show on that and talk about some of that stuff. So, Lance, great show. I know you got to get out of here early because you are going to celebrate the birthday with the missus. And so I know you got to get out of here kind of early, but just any thoughts from you before you get out of here?
You know, I thought it was a great show, Jay. You know, love what CT said. Clyde Travis, great having him on. And it's always great when we could bring one of ours on that played in the NBA, played for the home school. It was great having my man Marcus Liberty on. And no matter how hard Maya tries, no matter how hard my girl Maya tries to intimidate me, it will not work. And we need Alex Cord to manage the White Sox next year.
Now, see, you get ready to get to the topic. So I'll just go ahead and let the rabbit out the hat or the goose out the gander or whatever. Our special guest for 7:30 to talk about the moves that the Chicago White Sox have made is the producer and the host of Sean and Maya in the morning, and kind of like the owner of the network, Maya.
Bring Maya on before I get off the show. You know I love.
I don't know why you keep instigating things with me. I mean, you know, you just always pick, and then what did Marcus say? Well, you know, and then you got mad.
What did he say? I didn't hear that.
He's
part.
like, you know, those Iowa squads, and he's right. When it was Roy, BJ, that was when they actually played. That was actually a really good squad for Iowa back then. Actually, everything about Iowa back then was better than it is now. I'll be honest.
Y'all had pros, but my boy Tavares Hardy, the coach at Loyola, Maryland, he went to Northwestern. He was like, Lib said Northwestern had players. See what y'all started?
You know what? It's back then the Big Ten was relevant. It's not as relevant as it used to be. We were a powerhouse conference, especially with football. We were so competitive, but just the field has been stretched so thin now, especially with recruiting. And, now it's about who your head coach is, the legacy of your program, and the Big Ten struggles. I'll be honest. I mean, even from a football standpoint, first of all, the Big Ten is too big of a conference.
Yep, I was going to say that. They got 14 schools or something.
I was like, if they had one more, we don't need it. I mean, it's too big. The Big Ten, that's it. We're not like the Big 12 with, it's ridiculous. Too many teams, too far apart. I don't particularly care for it, but it is what it is. But at the end of the day, I don't think adding those teams made us a better conference. We didn't absorb teams into the Big Ten that I think made us more competitive. It was just so big. Now we have to divide it up, and so a lot of games you would traditional see, you won't see because it has to be East and West. But then it was a good conference, especially football wise. Honestly, now Ohio State is probably the best, like the creme de la creme. And you know why? Because Ohio State is an SEC team in the Big Ten. They don't play Big Ten football. They don't.
Yeah. It's a different style. Yep.
So it's a whole different style. I mean, but it's about coaching. And I'll be honest, we'll never get anybody. As long as they keep Kurt Ferentz in the mix, we'll never get anybody. I don't care what his record says. You can have a record if you work somewhere long enough to win some games. Mm-hmm. But he's not desirable. I mean, even Lovey, for what it's worth, struggles to recruit. And he's a former NFL head coach.
No doubt.
It's tough. Okay, but we were talking the White Sox.
Yeah, let's talk. So the big news of the day. The big news of the day. The White Sox fired Renteria and Don Cooper. Lance, you got thoughts before you go?
Yeah, I have a thought.
You want to be the new manager?
I got it.
Go, man. Who you think should be our next manager?
Myself being the instigator that I am, we need to ask the fans, do you want a ring? If you want a ring, Alex Cora, I know what Maya's going to say. He got caught cheating, but I'm going to jump off on that. We want rings. So go get the man that can get you a ring. Let him apologize like most coaches do. No, I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to jump off because Maya getting that look on her face getting started.
Yeah, man, out to dinner. Get out of here.
You're lucky that you can get bailed out tonight. There'll be another. There'll be another day for us to clash. No worries.
I'll see you on Monday.
That's right.
I'm seeing you on Monday.
You see me on Monday, right?
I'm giving you 5 good minutes on Monday to talk.
Oh, look at him. You giving me 5 good minutes. Okay. Bye, Lance. Bye, Felicia.
You know what? Bye.
So anyway, we got some stuff to talk about. So, obviously the obvious candidates are AJ Hinch and Alex Cora. Those are obviously the top 2 at the list. They already said Ozzie Guillen will not be a coaching candidate, so that takes him out the mix. But then, we get this report and I thought it was a joke at first, that they actually may be reaching out to Tony La Russa.
Okay. Rick Hahn, you didn't do all this to move backwards. Okay, if Ozzie can't be in the discussion who actually won a ring in the city, La Russa coached a long time, some decent teams, but he never brought you a title. And my thing is, if we're moving past the concept of being antiquated in the manager role, like I was calling for Don Cooper's job for a minute, and people kind of got to, I said, and it's hard for me to do it. I said, I'm a Don Cooper fan too, but I question his ability to be able to coach these young arms. Here was the red flag. He really couldn't fix Rodon. He couldn't fix Lopez. But if you gave him someone like Keiko, he could go give him a couple pointers because he's an older school pitcher. But when you talk about the likes of Giolito, who had to go to Seattle to Driveline to relearn how to pitch, he couldn't get that from his pitching coach. He had to go to, and I mean, Driveline is known to resurrect careers. They're known for it. It's science. There's a science at Driveline. I mean, they measure you out. They do all kinds of different things to help you understand what's wrong in your mechanics based on your build. Mm-hmm. That's not something that I think an old school coach can honestly do. So when you talk about Cease, you talk about, Dunning and Kopech and you have all these young pitchers that might require something different than what old school Don can do. So it was hard for me to ask for his job, but I felt like, well, we keep looking at the deficiencies. He's part of the deficiency, and I felt like he was very nonverbal this season.
Yeah, I agree with you, Maya. I didn't have a problem with them, removing Don or, I was calling for Ricky.
Well, I was never on board with that anyway, so.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with Don leaving too. I think, he's done a lot. And, like I said to Sean this morning, 18 years as a pitching coach, that's almost like unheard of. You need to hear a different voice, even if they're telling you the exact same thing. Sometimes just to hear it from a different person, can have a different effect on people. But I agree with you. I think, we got younger pitchers there into the science, of which Don is not. Rick Hahn, did his best in trying to defend a lot of, he didn't throw these guys under the bus, and he shouldn't have. I mean, Coop is part of the White Sox legacy, but, he said, well, it's not that Don wasn't willing to, learn to do stuff. But, I mean, you just kind of told us that's not his thing.
But the thing about it so I was kind of shocked about Don because I didn't know that Rick had kahunas like that. So I was like, Rick, you're showing me a whole nother side of you, and I have mad respect, because to pull the plug on Renteria right now, which, by the way, he made tons of mistakes that I disagree with. The list is very long. Lineups, just a lot of different stuff. Everyone felt he wasn't the guy that could take him to the next step, because I'm sorry, if you think about this, they shouldn't have lost that series against the A's.
No.
They shouldn't have. No. And this shouldn't have happened, but it did. So I think for Rick Hahn to be able to make the decision to pull the plug on Ricky and not give him a season, let's say, to have a full complement of healthy players, tells you that the culture of this organization has changed dramatically.
Yes.
Everything from let's draft, develop, bring up, everything doesn't have to come out of free agency. It's not about win now. It's about long-term longevity in regards to wanting to win now, but you also want to be able to win season after season. You want to get titles. You want a World Series. But to fire Renteria told me he's not afraid to make the hard decisions. And I have a lot of respect for Hahn right now, because I was thinking he was coming back. I didn't think he'd do it.
Yeah, I didn't think he was ever coming back. I thought it was too much public pressure from the fan base for them to bring that guy back. It would have been a disaster. You talking about opening day, especially if we're all able to go to games again and you got a full crowd opening day. You know what it would have been like opening day when they have everybody come out, you out there lined up on the third base line, and they announce your manager, Ricky Renteria.
And everybody turns around.
It would have been a complete disaster. I wasn't surprised about that at all. But you do make a great point. In the past, we would have seen them, kind of do something silly. And I'm really hoping that La Russa report is very erroneous.
Okay, well, it better be, because I was like, why would you dig back a oldie but goodie? Again, it's like you have to think differently in current. I'm not saying that being a baseball purist isn't good, but to me, there's a lot more to this. So it'll be interesting because, so some of the names that have been throwing around besides La Russa, and obviously people brought up Ozzie, we can't be homers about this and say, yes, I mean, don't give me, would I be awfully upset? No. But would I think it's the right move? I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. Do I think that Ozzie brings a different layer of connection with those players and his philosophy? I believe, like, for instance, someone like Tim Anderson could grow even more under someone like Ozzie. You know what I mean? So it would be interesting, but I'm not pushing that agenda because there's other people out there. So some of the top names they're talking about is, like you said, AJ Hinch is out there. Then Sandy Alomar Jr., who I'm a big fan of. Alex Cora, his name has been put out there. Somebody even had the godforsaken nerve to say AJ Pierzynski, and I wanted to poke them in the eyes for even saying that, because that's ridiculous. Those are some of the names that are out there. And of all those names, for some reason, Sandy Alomar sits well with me.
Yeah.
It just does, because maybe this is me being a little narrow-minded, because a lot of the team happens to be Latino. That piece resonates for me a little bit, being able, that connection piece. And I don't want someone to think, well, now that's preferential treatment. Well, he's qualified. It's not like, I'm saying he's not qualified.
Right.
So I just think we have to be able to still connect with that piece of our team. But we also, I think Sandy can connect with anybody on the team. You know what I mean?
And Sandy's got the history because he did play here for a period of time too. So he's very familiar with that. And I think he's a great coach. He's been the bench coach for the Cleveland Indians. He stepped in this year when their manager got ill. Now, Matt Zawoski was on Sean and Maya this morning, and Matt said, he doesn't think he's going to come because he thinks he wants the Cleveland job, and he believes that Franco is going to retire. He thinks the manager's really ill, so that Alomar may be that fit there, and that may very well be the case here. I thought one of the things that Rick Hahn said in his press conference today, he also kind of said, we didn't get, and he said it. He said we didn't get the production out of the designated hitter position or out of right field that we need.
So
competitive. So I think
who do you? So who's pinpointed? Encarnacion and Mazar. Exactly. So,
right.
But and here's the thing, and that's kind of nitpicking a bit because you had hot bats in other places. But I like the fact he's like, but we could have gotten the whole thing about the DH was to give us a certain amount of production. But there are some other pieces that are going to be difficult. McCann needs to come back. They need to figure that out because it isn't just. I mean, he's excellent behind the plate. His bat was hot. You know what I mean? So they need to figure out. I mean, I know that Grandal was supposed to be the thing that you wanted, but McCann, he earned it. He earned it last year. So to me, they have to figure out a way to retain McCann. I'd hate to lose him. The other piece is we know that we legitimately need another veteran pitcher. I keep saying you need to buy Bauer. You need to buy him. You need to buy him for 2 years. What's the hashtag? Everybody needs to hit up Trevor Bauer and say, buy Bauer. That's where it's at. Because we need a pitcher for 2 years that can allow for Kopech and Dunning to really be able to recover from Tommy John. Because we know that roughly there's about a three-year window when someone has had Tommy John to be able to really start pitching at a high level. It actually took, I would say it took Darvish 4 seasons. But in theory, he had a mental breakdown that they don't want to talk about last year. So he didn't pitch as well in year 3, but look how he looked this year in that 4th year without the mental stress that he was having. So we really need a solid arm in that rotation so that we don't have to put too much on Dunning and Kopech because Dunning got the innings. He was fatigued at the end. You could tell he was. Kopech, I don't know, but I still feel we could use, and Bauer doesn't want a long-term contract.
Right. He's kind of like, I'm going to bet on myself and go year to year. And I'm like, that worked perfectly here, buddy.
He's like a pitching journeyman, but the thing is, it's good. It's not like his arm isn't good. So I'm like, even though the rumors are that I guess maybe Boston is hot in pursuit, but look, here's the difference with this season. The White Sox moved up in respectability from a national level. You had national networks talking about how good the White Sox are. That makes it more appealing to make this a destination because real talk, everyone's like, there's no reason they shouldn't be in the playoffs. Now, mind you, a longer season, we cross our fingers. We'll see how this pans out. But I think it becomes a destination city. But that manager piece, that's the other piece of the puzzle that'll be interesting to it. If they get someone like AJ Hinch, how do you feel about it?
I will be okay with it. Here's the thing. I think, he and Alex Cora were punished for what they did. I didn't agree with the punishment for the Astros as an organization. I thought it should have been way more harsh. I think you should have snatched their trophy from them. They cheated. But AJ himself, he was forced to sit out an entire year. Same thing with Cora. That was his punishment. You got to sit out. And guess what? It's going to always be with him for the rest of his life. It will always be with him no matter what. That said, Maya, we didn't give the man a death sentence. It's not life in prison.
But here's my thing. I know they always say if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And real talk, we know most people cheat at a lot of stuff. We know it's only when you get caught that it's an issue.
Yeah.
It's about ethics, and I get all that. So I'm not by any means saying people should be cheating and we should be okay with it. But we do get real enamored when cheating produces large, yields big results. Like look at McGuire and Sosa. We all knew they were juiced. Come on. But we were just enthralled in watching it. But when they got caught, then everybody wanted to act like they didn't know. So I get that piece. The only thing I don't want to happen is I don't want that distraction to come into the clubhouse. Because the energy on this team right now is really good. It's focused. It's positive. And there's no way you can't tell me that if either one of them show up, now that energy and that story follows them into Chicago. Even though I know we're known to be that kind of, mobster type, we get down and dirty anyways. And it's the South Side. So I guess you could be like, why wouldn't they? Is that how y'all get down in Chicago, And then they probably have some whole mob thing going on. But anyways, that's another story. So that's the thing about it. I don't question their ability. What I question is what distraction or drama might they bring with them? But the thing is, if they start winning, that distraction, like Lance said,
what was our biggest fear when the Bulls signed Dennis Rodman?
That was different. That was a different. But okay, but you felt like there were enough personalities on that squad to reel that in, and he wasn't the leader.
Here's what I feel though. I feel like AJ Hinch will, after going what he's had to go through, or Cora for that matter, if they come back now, then they're gonna say, you know what? Okay, now I got to prove that I can do it without cheating. So they probably gonna come in with a chip on their shoulder and really be driven to win, because now they're gonna say, okay, now my whole legacy is on the line, my whole credibility has been shot to hell. I got to try to get it back. And what's the best way of doing that? Proving that you could do it without cheating.
Well, here's the thing, though. Guess what? You kind of get a team that you're not going to need to cheat with. I mean, you be honest. To acquire someone like the White Sox, if you're Core or you're Hinch, dude, you're licking your chops. You're like, okay, this is right for the pick. This is talent right here.
Sure.
Seriously. So they walk into a good situation. And the thing is, anybody who walks into this situation, it's a good situation. You know what I mean?
It is.
It's only bad if you manage to mess it up, not to be funny about it. So the question
is, messed it up. We saw the guy mess it up.
Well, I know. Yeah. But the question is, do they become a distraction? Is my only thing. And you're right. Winning people stop focusing when you start winning. Here's my thing. If they choose to do it, then they have to come in with a really good PR strategy. So what this means, if they go with either one of them, address it head on. And then be done with it. Be like, okay, I'm gonna address this before the season even gets started, because what it's not gonna do is distract me from winning with this team, because that's why I'm here. I made a bad decision. I made a really poor decision, and I regret it, and I'm embarrassed. I need to say it and be like, if I could go over and do it again, I probably would. But no, I'm just kidding. Don't say that. But seriously, they need to own it and be like, so what I'm not gonna do is always talk about it. We're moving forward, and I'm here. But I do owe baseball an apology. I do owe fans an apology, because we never should have done it.
I agree.
And then at that point, because, once you take ownership of something, you take the wins out of the sails of people who want to be critical. You know what
I agree. So here's the thing is, so let's say they don't go with either one of them. So we take that whole problem away. We don't get either Hinch or Cora. Who else is out there that we bring on?
Well, if Sandy takes himself out the running, because Sandy would, to me, of everybody on the list, he is the best choice.
Okay.
He is. He doesn't come with drama. He understands the organization. He can be on both sides and navigate everything you need from him. You know what I mean? So he's a good fit. Cross your fingers, that would work really well. If not, at that point, I have to step back and really evaluate what's out there, because the thing is,
there you go.
This is a really, the problem is, this might be one of the biggest decisions that Rick Hahn might ever have to make. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and here's the thing, Maya. You and I both agreed on this. Did he make a mistake and let Ricky manage this year when we saw what was getting ready to happen? And you and I were screaming it for 2 years. Go get Joe Girardi. Get Joe Girardi. And he didn't do it. He let Girardi go to the Phillies last year. And who knows what we would have been with Girardi, but okay, fine. We missed out on that.
Well, okay, if we believe that Hinch and Cora can do it, why in God's name would we think that Girardi can't do it? And that's the thing. And even though everyone's like, hey, the White Sox are making those Cub moves. No, because if we were making Cub moves, we would have cut him at the knees last year.
You sure would have.
And we would have got Girardi, because that's what the Cubs did to get mad. And they're like, that's our guy. And they went and got their guy. So, But learning curve, and mind you, the organization was also still in a shift about power. You know what I mean? Sure. So hence I get why that didn't play out. But now you're right. I don't know. Because the thing is, you can't go get somebody green. You need someone experienced, respectable, because remember, as your manager goes the focus and energy of your team. So you want that guy that has that grit, that can go out there, pull it together, who can manage someone like Luis Robert. Bring him in when he's been silly. Tell Eloy, you might have 2 left feet. Please don't act like it. You have to have someone that has to be able to legitimately navigate this cast of characters and the talent, because there's a whole lot there. And then pitching is just, I got so excited when I heard that Crochet was okay.
Yes, that's the other big news.
I just had a little love affair. I was like, he knitting everybody up.
Right. Yeah. So
I was like, where did you find him? I'm like, where did you find him?
Yeah, just a strain muscle. The young man will be back for spring training. And spring training right around the corner, it's just a few months away. So we got like 3 minutes left here. I don't want to get out here without saying anything about the Bears' big win over Tampa Bay, which took place. We beating Tom Brady.
That was the sloppiest, most ridiculous game I've watched.
It was, but we got to win.
But historically, Thursday night games tend to look a lot like that. And you know what? This whole week, Sunday, those games, seriously, the games yesterday, this was very disjointed in regards to wins. You know what I'm saying? Overall, it was a weird kind of week in football.
And I think it's the COVID stuff.
I don't know, but the Raiders might be the Raiders for real.
Yeah, I really do. I think the COVID stuff, we've got games being postponed and moved all over the place. And
I will say this. I'm not overly critical, even like with Foles. I said, because I'm still watching some things not quite pan out like they should. Now the O-line, it's like, so Daniels, you know what I mean? So now we've got more issues with no depth. So there was somebody who didn't even believe that the Bears could be 8-8. They're like, okay, it's a mirage. I'm like, I said, to be honest, I think you did. I think you were one of those people. I said, I don't know what I think. I said, I look at the schedule and I know what I think I should see, but you know what I wanted in this whole process when they were going to get a quarterback, I was like, go get Bridgewater. But the issue was they would not ordain him the starter. You see what he's doing right now, right?
Right.
And I said, all because you didn't want to hurt Mitch's feelings, and you still hurt his feelings anyways.
Yep.
So I don't know. Here's the thing. I know they're still winning, but eventually they're going to hit a wall, Jason. They're going to hit a wall. They are.
I know. And the sad part is when you look at their schedule, like they really shouldn't be hitting the wall coming up. They don't have a lot of tough teams left. They do have to play New Orleans, I know. And you still got the Packers twice, but Minnesota is terrible. Detroit is awful. A lot of these teams they're playing. Who they play next? Carolina. I mean, they shouldn't lose these games.
That Carolina game ain't gonna be easy.
That's what I'm saying. You would think that they're gonna win these games, and then all of a sudden we're gonna get in these dog fights with this team. And I just kind of feel like they're gonna break our hearts in the last 4 games of the season. And if they can hold on, make the playoffs, I think they're gonna get eliminated in the first round. Then here we are talking about Nagy again. Should he be back?
I mean, again, who's not a Nagy person? Maya. I've never from day one. I didn't feel it. I was like, don't like it. Don't like the pick. Need somebody different. But now there's a lot of glaring. The O-line, we knew there were issues, especially after Long left. There's just problems. And mind you, I'm not even going to rag on the defense anymore. I mean, even though they're still not as intense like the Colts I wanted them to be, but they are keeping them in games. They are doing what they're supposed to do. The offense is just a problem. So I don't know. It is what it is. I don't have any high hopes on this. I'm just going.
Hey, that should be our theme for the Bears. Bears 2020. It is what it is. that should be our theme going forward. So, but anyway, thank you for jumping on.
Yes,
I'm as a guest here for this last half hour. This is our producer, Maya Kai. Remember to check her out. She'll be on the show on Wednesday on Sean and Maya in the mornings, right here on the SportsZone Chicago. Remember, everybody, download that app off of iTunes, off of Google, off of Amazon. Check out all of our shows. Don't forget to answer our poll question. Who is stealing money in Chicago? Go to ChicagoCrusader.com. Answer that poll question. I'm Jason Palmer for Lance Irvin, who took his wife out to dinner. Peace. See you next week.